we will try to find the link between Yetziat Mitzrayim and Netinat Torah through Megillat Ruth. So it says the following: V'ger lo tilchatz in Shemot Kaf Gimel. V'ger lo tilchatz, which means that you should not oppress the ger. And by the way, I would just say a ger might be a convert, might be a foreigner, might be a stranger, might be many things in the Torah. But let's just take it as a convert. Because you knew the soul or the spirit or the psychological condition of the nefesh hager, because you yourself were converts in Mitzrayim. Obviously there it's not converts, halachic converts, we are talking about obviously strangers. Okay. Says Rab Shem Shlomo Raphael, said something very interesting. הפסוק שלנו חוזר ומעמיד בראש הדחיקה את עיקרון השוויון והחסד. This verse basically reestablished the idea of in our judicial system the value and the principle of what? Of שוויון, equality, and chesed and kindness. ובמבחן העיקרון הזה, listen to that, this is like in the 21st century we need to listen to that, it's interesting. ובמבחן העיקרון הזה, and the test for something like that will be what? יעמוד בייחוד יחסה של המדינה היהודית אל הזרים. How the Jewish state, by the way, he was not a Tzioni. Don't even think that Rabbi Shimon Raphael was a Tzioni, was not. But he also, like everyone else, he thought about there is going to be a Jewish state, a halachic state, a theoretical, whatever it calls, whatever state we will have. He says that the study case or the test for this state is how this state will approach strangers. הללו ייהנו מכל הזכויות שהחוק מעניק לאזרח. He says that they should enjoy all the privileges that the law gives to every citizen, ומיחס של אהבה וחסד, and from a behavior of what? Of love and kindness. על העיקרון הזה מושתתת סדרת חוקים. Based on that value or that principle, you have many other laws, such as המוצגים כאן בקווים כלליים בלבד, that are presented here only in general descriptions, ושכל אחד מהם מתייחד לדבר אמת מאמיתות התורה. והצד השווה שבכולם הוא, שלפי מהותם הפנימית הם מפרנסים את רוח השוויון והאנושיות שבאומה. Which means all the laws that refers to how you treat strangers, how do you treat people who are not like you, that basically will define who we are as a state. Now, we all know where Rabbi Shimon Raphael was, Germany, from 1800 to 1880, if I'm not mistaken. And he obviously was influenced by what was going on there in Germany, בערך, in that time. There is emancipation, they are talking about equal rights and talking about all of that. And he's obviously influenced by that. And in a way, if they can do it, we definitely need to what? To lead it. Now, if there is a little bit of a disconnect between ideals and reality, I would assume, but also sometimes you need to ask yourself a question, what would be the situation when those strangers do not want you to be here? Okay, that's obviously takes you to a little bit of a different discussion. Okay, so now he continues. כי החוקים האלה באים להחדיר אל לב בני האומה, שגם הם יראו את עצמם רק כגרים ותושבים בארץ השם ועל אדמת השם, ולא יפריזו בחשיבות הרכוש החומרי, הפרזה שלעולם תיצור אי שוויון חוקי ונוקשות ביחסי בני אדם. It says this value of how you treat strangers is also good for us as a nation. Why? Because it will basically imbue and perpetuate the idea that we ourselves also just what? Strangers in a land that belongs to someone else, to Hashem. And therefore we will not exaggerate with our I will say a desire to have more and more property, and more property obviously will create more and more a gap in society, and then the abuse of the people who don't have it. And then he says, שמירת החוקים האלה תביא אותם לידי הערכה צודקת והחשבה יתרה של כל הצדדים הרוחניים והמוסריים. By implementing that value, we will basically focus on what? On the important things, the spiritual things, the moral things, שהם עיקר הבחינה האנושית שבאדם. Because if I want to define you as a human being, I need to know that you are moral, not that you are wealthy. Wealthy might add, but it will not define you. ובהם תלוי שוויון כל בני אדם לפני החוק, ואהבת כל בני האדם זה לזה. Beautiful. Not sure how realistic it is, but beautiful. Okay. Also, this shiur obviously is in memory of Mel and Sylvia David by their families, so שמעתי עלייה. So, okay. Yes.
I was interested in the difference in the nusach in Tefillah, starting in Ashkenazi, and one says Ahavat Chesed, the other one says Ahavat V'Chesed. Applying one version is one thing, the other version is maybe two things.
The second one I can understand more. What does it mean? What does it mean, Ahavat Chesed? To love to do kindness, or love that it's itself kindness, or love of kindness? Okay. So, the Torah continues on with this idea of loving the convert and everything. It says, עושה משפט יתום ואלמנה, ואוהב גר לתת לו לחם ושמלה. That Hashem himself, one of the characteristics of Hashem himself is what? That he does the judgment or the justice for the orphan and the widow, and he loves ger to give him what? Lechem v'simla. Now that sounds like klum it klum. What does it mean? I love the gerim. I give them lechem v'simla.
Means board or
Okay, so take a look in a second. Says Rashi, דבר חשוב הוא זה, which means what? It's an important thing, don't dismiss it. שכל עצמו של יעקב אבינו, על זה נתפלל. That's what Yaakov prayed before he left Canaan, ונתן לי לחם לאכול, ובגד ללבוש, he will give me food to eat and clothes to what? To wear. Okay. ואהבתם את הגר כי גרים הייתם בארץ מצרים, פסוק י"ט, right? You should love the converts or the strangers. Why? Because you are strangers as well. In a way, by the way, the Jewish people, the Am Yisrael, always was on that, we'll call it the spectrum of Yetziat Mitzrayim and Eretz Canaan. We always need to remember how we were treated in Mitzrayim, and therefore we shouldn't do it where? In the land of Israel. And then in the land of Israel, we are always warned what to do. Not to follow the chukot hagoyim or to'evot hagoyim. We always have this timeline that we have is between Yetziat Mitzrayim and Eretz Canaan. Always. Remember what you did there, and whatever was done to you there, do not do when you are in control. Look, one of the most difficult things for us, for Am Yisrael also today, is not poverty and not suffering, but rather power, strength, and wealth. Think about it. Most of the time, as a nation, what did we struggle with? What did we struggle with? What did we struggle with?
what do we struggle?
Persecutions, pogroms, they all hate us, they all want to kill us, right? We are the miskenim, we have no land, we have no place, we have nowhere to go. Okay? 1948, we have a place to go.
They still hate us.
Oh, they still hate us, and because we are poor and we don't have anything, we can't protect ourselves, blah, 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 blah. Okay, 67 comes along. Oh, we are, Baruch Hashem, pretty powerful, Baruch Hashem, right? And we have no one to blame. And not only that we have no one to blame, we almost doubled our territory, and now we have strangers. And what do you do? What do you do when you have the power and you can't blame anyone else besides yourself? Oh, that's a problem. It's easier in a way to be nirdaf מאשר someone who has the power. And that's part of our struggle. We don't really have too many examples of how to behave when we have the power. Give me examples from Tanakh. David, okay, nice one. Okay, so David had the power, נכון? נו? Shlomo had the power, right? Beautiful. What did he do with his power? He what? He had to support 1,000 women, right? But besides it, build the Bet HaMikdash, wonderful, right? Silver, gold was nothing in his time, wonderful. Okay, what else?
Made peace with a lot of
Made peace with a lot of people. Many people were inspired by Judaism.
A lot of people feel they have to pay so many taxes and work so much.
If you want to know what people think about someone, especially a king, don't ask them while he's alive. Okay, because they will be dead. Ask them after he is dead and they are alive, right? And we know with Rehovam, what did they say to Rehovam? אביך יקשה עלינו בשוטים. Right, and this is, אבי בשוטים, אני בעקרבים. מותני קטנה, זרתי קטנה ממותני אבי. Right? Basically, they all had enough from this guy. Just imagine, in order to support his empire, you had to what? To work very hard and pay a lot of taxes. So the idea is, when you have the power, does not mean necessarily that you know how to use it correctly. And so many people has lack of understanding about the difference between power and influence, which are two totally different things. But the ideal is that you should have the power and you should have influence, not only just to abuse power. Most kings just abuse power. Yeah, that's true. Okay. Okay. So here we have what? That Hashem himself, the mighty God, one of his praises is what? That he is Ohev Ger. He loves the converts of the strangers, okay? And that basically was something that was repeated in the Torah many, many times. So that's the expectation, right? This is what I will call the Torah expectation from us as a nation, to love the convert, to be masbir panim to the stranger, all of that, wonderful. Take a look at Ruth. Ruth פרק ב', we spoke a little bit about פרק א' last week, so take a look at פרק ב'. ותאמר רות המואביה אל נעמי, אלכה נא השדה והלקתה בשיבולים, אחר אשר אמצא חן בעיניו, ותאמר לה לכי ביתי. So Ruth says to Naomi, I will go and try to collect some food, some wheat, barley, whatever I can find in a field. אשר אמצא חן בעיניו, that I will find favor in his eyes, and she says to her, go, my daughter, right? Take a look at Rashi. אלכה נא השדה, I will go to the field, לאחד משדות אנשי העיר, to one of the fields in the city, אחרי אחד מהם אשר אמצא חן בעיניו, שלא יגער בי. What does that mean? That he will not, יגער זה to rebuke. Okay? להוכיח, לגעור זה like, get out of here. Okay, get out of here. What are you doing here? Now, we know that if she would collect it, it will be leket shechecha v'pea, which means it's something that I am obligated to give, right? It's not like if I'm a nice guy, I need to give it, right? But because she's a stranger, she's afraid that what? That the owner of the field will tell her what? Get out of here. Now, how exactly they learned Shmot, Dvarim, Bamidbar, those people at that time? What, they didn't know the Psukim ve'avtem et הגר?
She wasn't again.
Zar, not necessarily a convert. We said it might be a stranger, not necessarily a convert.
She was a Moabite. They didn't accept yet that.
No, I'm saying that when we say ger, does not necessarily mean the halachic definition of a convert. It might be even a stranger. So if she's a stranger, okay, there is a poor lady here who tried to collect some wheat. She was afraid that he will what? He will tell her, get out of here. Now, two options, like we did last week. Option number one, it's really no one will say something like that. It's in her mind. Sometimes, this is almost a reverse psychology. People who were not part of a group and now they try to be part of a group, they think that the group think about them all sorts of things, even though when you ask the group themselves, they will say, we have no idea what you're talking about, okay? So it might be some kind of low self-esteem that Ruth had. That's option number one. Second option, she tried it. She went once, she went twice, she went 3 times, and every time she went, someone told her, get out of here. Okay? So it might be based on experience, or it might be based something really in her mind. Okay. Says the Al-Sheikh. The Al-Sheikh says, ותאמר רות המואביה, ראוי לשים לב למה זה כינה אותה כתוב בכינוי מואביה. We all know that she is מואביה. Why do you need to what? To say it again. ומה? גם עניין אומרו נא. אלכה נא השדה. What is the word נא? נון א'? Please. Like, why do we need it here? ולמה לא הזכירה שכחה ופאה כי אם לקט לבד? So the Al-Sheikh is like very meticulous about it, and he says, why does she say, אלחנה השדה ועלקתה בשיבולים, which means I will take only the leket, and not the שכחה and the פאה. So, ועוד, one more question, or really few more, אחר אשר אמצא חן בעיניו, כי הלא תראה כי מתדבקת באשר תמצא חן בעיניו, ולא טוב הדבר. ולא עוד, אלא שלא מחתה בידה נעמי, ואדרבה, החזיקה בידה לדבר ולומר לכי ביתי. So now he asks a question which is a bit, I will call it sensitive. He interprets the idea of אשר אמצא חן בעיניו, that she will try to find favor in the eyes of the owner of the field. Am I clear enough?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the Al-Sheikh says, why would she do that? And not only she would offer it, she would be encouraged by her mother-in-law, Naomi, yeah, sure, go biti. She should probably tell her, Ruth, we don't do those things. You go to the field, you collect what you collect. If it says to you, get out of here, you just go out. You leave. Don't try to find favor in his eyes. And then it says, ועוד באומרו, ותלך ותבוא ותלקט מהראוי להפך, ולומר, ותלקט ותבוא. The pasuk says, ותלך, ותבוא ותלקט. And it should say what? She likta, and then halcha. So, he says like that. Yomar. Now, take a look at how the Al-Sheikh describes the situation in the time of the judges, if that's the time of the judges, according to one opinion, that's when Megillat Ruth was composed and was written, or we said that some others think it was a little later, okay? So he says, רות חששה פן יחסריה שומע, ותהיה כמתעתעת בעיני נעמי, באמור אליה אל חנה השדה לנערה כמוה, כי הוא מקום בחורים ונערים, ואולי יפגעו בה. First and foremost, she is a bit concerned to go to those fields. Why? Those fields are filled with young men, and she's afraid that they're going to hurt her. That's Am Israel, Be'eretz Israel, and don't forget, they just came back from where? Moab. Okay? We always like to speak about the Moabites and the Midianites, and they were all terrible people, right? Difficult midot. That's in Eretz Israel. ומה גם ברבות עניים רבים לוקטים, תימצא בתוך אנשים רבים מסובבת מהם והוא בלתי ראוי. And also because she's a girl and she's by herself, and she will be surrounded by many people, especially many men, it's past nicht, not nice. וגם כי בהיותה בתוך השדה לא יתעוללו בה, כי רבים נמצאים שם קוצרים ואשר ניצבים עליהם ובעלי שדה. Says even though she should not really be concerned that they will abuse her, God forbid, while she's in the field. Why? Because there are many other people there. Take a look. הלא בלכתה משדה אל שדה אחר בתוך הבקעה, במקום שאין אנשים, השתדל להיות איש הבליעל איתה אימה, ומה גם בין סלעים גדולים ימצא האיש ויוחז בה ואין מושיע לה. This is incredible. If I would tell you that without the Al-Sheikh, he will tell me, Rabbi, בחייך, אתה מגזים.
Where does she get these ideas from? Just from a...
I will tell you.
Okay.
No idea. The idea is that he looks at what's going on also. By the way, he does understand Sefer Shoftim. Sefer Shoftim is what? They do something good, they are being saved, and then they go bad again. So Bichlal, the idea, the atmosphere is such, and he looks at the pasuk and says, Ruth is terrified to go. Why would she be terrified? Answer is, so Rashi says, someone will tell her, get out of here. He says it's not only that, it's much more than that. It's the fear of being abused, and if it's not in the field, someone is going to grab her on the way from one field to another.
Did women usually go out and...
We'll talk.
Or not? Or did men go?
Rishon. Right, but yes.
Here, because she's a Mokia, and she's afraid she's not going to be
So when I went to
accepted.
the...
I mean, we have to presume that if it's for her,
So now,
Now he taught her halachot, he taught her mitzvot. I would imagine that if she spent a lifetime, half a lifetime in her home, she would learn what Judaism is all about. And she would know that, for example, that there's something called Yibum, and that she's entitled to that if they accept her as a convert.
Wonderful. But it's not applicable here. There is no real conversion here. Amech ami Elokayich Elokai ze hakol. En halachot. There is nothing here. There is commitment to nationality and to their God, and commitment to her. Okay, who were the three rabbis who converted her, and when exactly she went to a mikveh? We have obviously no answers to that. And even if there was, we are not talking about a developed Torah shebe'al peh. Talking in the time of the judges. There is almost nothing there. There is a narrative. So all of that, it's nice, but not here. Okay, yes?
You judge, like you move somewhere new, totally foreign, you're gonna judge it by your experience in your country. If she's around Moabite men who are very abusive to women, she's fearful.
Oh.
Is this gonna happen in this new nation? Do I need to be fearful of these people?
Okay, might be.
Israel, you let your children, young children under the age of bar mitzvah, walk all over town by themselves. In New York, would you do that?
Me? No.
I just mean because you know it from.
All right. Agree. It might be another interesting way to look at it. She came already from an experience, even though I would say she got married to Machlon or Kilion or whatever he was, and she was in a way protected in her bubble, but it might be that something happened to her when she was, younger. Okay, yes.
they said she was a princess.
We try not to use midrashim. Okay, yes.
It makes sense because there was a lot of, but the morality was pretty low. And second of all, I was thinking, Shai is writing this. Maybe he's using his.
Sure, it might be, but we need proofs for that, for what exactly the Al-Sheikh saw in his society. But even if we don't know, definitely the time of Shoftim was not a great time for the Jewish people. Okay, so he continues. Al ken, you see after the three dots, Al ken, therefore, ראתה להתקין יחד כל אלה על ראשון. So she was a very smart girl, and she had all those issues, and she addressed each one of them. וזהו אמרה אל חנה, כלומר, הלא אתה היא תחילת קציר שעורים, ואין בהתחלת הקציר אנשים. ומה גם בהתחלת קציר שעורים רבו עניים עד יחזיקו בקציר, ועד בו החיטים החשובים יותר. וגם כי בשמחת הקציר, בתחילתה דרך הבעלים נימצא שם עם גרי ביתו קטנים עם גדולים, ולא אפחד אהיה מסובבת עניים הרבה. So he says like that. She goes בתחילת קציר שעורים. What is תחילת קציר שעורים? At the beginning of the harvest. Who goes at the beginning? Not too many people.
Not too much stuff.
Why? Not too much stuff. But who goes? The balabait. The balabait wants to be there when the first cut. Okay, he goes there. And he knows after that it will come more. But he goes in order to see that it begins, right? So he's going to be there. The family is going to be there. Not too many poor people and not too many men. Says Ruth, this is exactly my timing. This is the best timing to go. So she goes בתחילת קציר שעורים. And then, וגם הקוצרים ונערים הניצבים ישלחו את ידם בפניהם. וזהו אמרה אל חנה, לומר אתה אשר הוא תחילת קציר שעורים כאמור, וכן אפשר שלא התמיד עלולה הלכו איתה נערות בועז עד כלות הקציר. So he says, she went at the beginning of the קציר in order to avoid all the above, which means not to be surrounded by too many poor men, A, B, not to have fear from abuse because the owner is not there. She goes in the right place. Now, also, after Boaz recognized her and said to her, yes, you can stay, until what? Until later in the Ktsir Seorim, she always sticked with whom? With Na'arot Boaz, with the girls. So they went as a group. So as a group, they were not that afraid. And then he says, ועל דבר לכת בין שדה לשדה במקום שאין אנשים לא יהיה פחד. כי לא ילך את שדות רבים כי אם אל אחד לבד ולא אמיש ממנו וזה אמורה השדה. It's brilliant. It says, אלכנה והלקתה בשדה. What is בשדה? Specific field, which means I will go to that field and I will not leave that field. I'm just going from our home to the field and back. I'm not going to go from one field to another because I don't want to be captured. Yes?
Not only animals needed more than just food, they needed continuity, they needed their future. So she was also looking for Goel.
Not yet. Not yet. That's the beginning of Perek Bet. The only thing that basically, they don't know yet that the field belongs to Boaz. Right.
Go out when the Balabait was there.
Aha. So you say maybe yeah. But mostly at that time, probably the Balabait was already married in order to have territory. But whatever it is, it seems to be that she's more interested in food right now. Yes?
Answer the question how they would know she was specifically a Movia?
So I hate to be anti-Semite. I would assume that there were characteristics, facial characteristics, body characteristics, maybe clothes, maybe we will see other things that she did, or maybe even language.
Language, yes.
Accent, language. My guess that she didn't learn, whatever ancient Hebrew so quickly. And even if she did, I'm sure that she had some kind of a Moabite accent. So they immediately will see that she's a Nochriya. Also, if she comes alone, my assumption is that many people will go with a little group, with a friend or something like that. She goes really alone, mamash by herself. Yes,
The fact that the Al-Shir points out these nuances, demonstrates the veracity, the truth of these things. These are real stories. Really happened, and these are all logical things. You think that this is not friendly, we think it's not friendly. These are real activities.
I will just say one thing, not about so much friendly or not friendly. You're talking about here being very, very non-friendly.
Well, that's her perception, right?
Yeah, but the Al-Sheikh says it, and it doesn't say, oh, she shouldn't think like that. She should think like that. She should, which is mamash terrible when you think about it. So now, ועל הרביעית אמרה אחר אשר אמצא חן בעיניו, take a look at that I will find favor in his eyes. כלומר, אם אראה איש שאמצא חן בעיניו, take a look at that, this is an incredible Al-Sheikh. If I will find a person that I will find favor in his eyes, ולא יהיה באופן יזון עיניו בי, כי לא אעמוד כי אם אחריו ולא לפניו ולא מצידו. Meaning, to find favor in his eyes, not to find favor in his eyes. I'm not going to stand in front of him. I'm going to stand where? Behind him or at his side so he will not look at me. Meaning, I am looking for someone that can see me and not me. You with me? Yeah, there's a lot of me. I want someone that will see what I need, not will see what he can get from me. אשר אמצא חן בעיניו, but without his eyes. That's what the Al-Sheikh says.
She just wants to be.
Don't look at me. And also probably the fear. She's alone. She's a stranger. That's easy to abuse. So I don't want it. And if you want to give me something, don't give me something with the expectation to get something in exchange. You're not. What you do is that you give me chesed. Ruth is looking for chesed, which is incredible. Yes?
So Shmuel is writing it, and he uses the word Einav. And we know when Shmuel writes about Hashem telling him to choose David from the sons of Yishai, he also uses Einav. He
says,
don't look at the...
Adam יראה לעיניים והשם יראה ללבב. Right.
So here she's also saying, I don't want to have anything to do with eyes.
Interesting. Yeah, but the idea is really, don't give it to me because the way I look. Give it to me because it's chesed. Which is very interesting. Because don't forget, what did she do, Perek Aleph? An incredible chesed. With Naomi. Going with Naomi. Okay. מלבים. גם בהלקט אמרה אחר אשר אמצא חן בעיניו, שאם אראה בעל השדה מביט עליי בעין רעה, לא אלקוט שם, עד שאראה שמצאתי חן ושלא יגיע לי ביזיון מהקוצרים או יתר העניים. This is not the first time I read it, and every time I read it, it's like a shock. Basically, Ruth says what? She says, if I see that the owner looks at me with in a negative way, I'm out of there. I don't want it. Or if I get a mockery or something like that by the other kotzrim, I'm getting out of there. Now, since when beggars can be choosers? No, באמת. What does it say about Ruth? Think about it.
Proud and she'll.
Tznuah, for sure. By the way, I forgot, I think it was when I was in Paris. Who painted this? One of the most famous paints that I think it's Ruth harvesting. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Then go.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Whatever you will tell me, I'll believe you. I forgot the name. I'm not. But you know what? You know the paint I'm talking about?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, you see a woman. But you know what?
Definitely not.
You know what? Whoever it is, it's definitely not me. Okay, definitely not me. And you see a woman, and Chazal are going to talk about it. That Dafka she was the most modest girl collecting the wheat. And it's interesting because it seems to be the truth is very concerned about how they're going to behave to her. What about the other girls? Were they concerned?
No.
They were not concerned. They were looking to try to maybe find a husband there. Interesting, nachon? We will deal with it if we'll have time. So, yes.
Also, it's interesting that everybody calls her Hamoviyah except Boaz. I don't think, does he ever refer to her?
Well, if we have time, we'll talk about it. If not, we'll be next year. Okay, I'm trying to do it quickly. ויאמר בועז לנערו, we are on page 3. הניצב על הקוצרים, למי הנערה הזאת? What does it mean, למי הנערה הזאת? מי זאת הנערה? Right? למי? To whom she belongs to, right? Which means it was an anomaly to see a girl by herself doing those things, right? It's strange. That's A. B. That's very similar. You mentioned Shmuel and David when the story with Goliath. So Shaul sees David and says, Mize האלם הזה, right? And Doeg says to him, before you ask who he is, ask if he is worthy to be a king, and he's not because he comes from Ruth המואביה. למי הנערה הזאת? Who did she belong to? Now, why would you say that? So maybe because he was amazed that she came alone. A. B, maybe because he was amazed by what she did, how she carried herself. Okay, so take a look at the Psikta Zutrat Midrash Tekachtov, a little bit of a late Midrash, but whatever. It says, ויאמר בועז אל נערו הניצב על הקוצרים, למי הנערה הזאת? מה ראה בועז לשאול עליה? והלא היה מכירה. Says, why did he ask about her? He knows her. But what does it mean he knows her? How did?
He heard the story.
Oh, יפה מאוד. Do you remember when Naomi came back with Ruth? I don't know if we finished it last week, but when Ruth and Naomi came back to Bethlehem, ותאום עליהם העיר, ותאמר הזאת Naomi. Everyone is talking. This is Naomi. By the way, everyone is talking about them. No one invited them for a Friday night dinner, right? Everyone said, oh my gosh, did you hear about that story? So Boaz also heard. Now, this is some criticism on Boaz. They are your relatives. Why don't you do anything? So we spoke about it a bit last week. They were a shanda. That family was an embarrassment. We spoke about it. Elimelech, who was supposed to be a leader, leaves the country because it's a little hard, and then they come back when there is more food in Israel. So they might be that they were embarrassed by them. A. B. We know from the later on, from Perek Daled, that there was someone who was closer in terms of being a family member to Boaz, a Goel, the one who refused to take Ruth. So he was what? He was closer. So maybe Boaz says, you know what? Yenem, someone else should do that. And also, maybe Boaz had some, family issues of his own, so he was not able to take care of Ruth. But whatever it is, he asked. Why would he ask about her? אלא שראה בה דרך צניעות. Rather, he saw that she is what? Extremely modest. Why? שכל הנשים שוכחות ומלקטות, וזו עומדת ומלכדת כדי שלא שוחה. Which means all the other women will bend down in order to collect whatever they want. And she will do it while she is standing. I can understand also the difficulty in order to do so, but she extra modest. Then, כל הנשים היו שוחקות עם הקוצרים. וזו מצנעת את עצמה. שמעתם?
Yeah.
All the other women who came there, they were שוחקות עם הקוצרים, which means what? They were flirting with the men. In order to what? To try to find a husband. And, okay, so what does Ruth do? Instead of doing that, because she is alone, she is a widow, she has nothing, if she will marry, she will be in a much better condition. Now, זו מצנעת עצמה. What does mean מצנעת עצמה? She's trying to hide herself in a way, ממש, to hide herself. כל הנשים מלקטות מן העומרים, וזו מלקטת מן ההפקר. אוקיי. take a look. וכך אומר בדוד, וכראות שאול לדוד יצא לקראת הפלישתי, אמר אל אבנר שר הצבא, בן מי זה הנער אבנר? ויאמר אבנר, חי נפשך המלכים ידעתי. So they also make the what? They try to compare between when Shaul says, who is this guy? Because they saw that David is special. So when you see someone special, you say, who is this guy? But it does not explain yet, למי. It should say, מי, not למי. So then he says, דבר אחר, למי הנערה הזו? כסבור, בועז thought that what? שהיא מבנות בית לחם. והיה מצטער עליה, שם ההיא משבט יהודה. מה קורה פה?
Her lineage.
Yeah, but what's the problem if she's from שבט יהודה?
To take care of their own and no one had taken care of her. That's from Yehuda.
She's in the wrong place.
Okay. We have a bit of a problem here. We have than a bit of a problem, okay? בית לחם, מה זה? בואו. בית לחם is in Yehuda. Okay. What else do we know about בית לחם? Rachel. Rachel is buried there, right? Yeah, שבט בנימין, יופי. שבט בנימין and Yehuda always have some kind of a bit of togetherness and also tension. For example, we know that most of the Beit HaMikdash is where? In Binyamin's territory. And there's only a little Retzua that goes to Yehuda, and always Yehuda wants more. And how do we know that? Binyamin, uvein ktefav shachen. That's the bracha that Shevet Binyamin gets. Between his shoulders, God dwell, that's where the Beit HaMikdash. And then there is a רצועה שיוצאת מחלקו של בנימין ונכנסת לחלקו של יהודה. Binyamin, yeah. And by the way, just as a side note, one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons is because of what? No, simple. Was the only one who was born in Israel. A. B. Was not involved in Mechirat Yosef. And never bent down to Esav, because he was not born. So that's not fair. But he never did it. So that itself, it's a very interesting thing about Beit HaMikdash and also. Okay, so going back to our issue. כסבור שהיא מבנות בית לחם, והיה מצטער עליה שם ההיא משבט יהודה. I read it, and I'm not sure that that's the best reading, but he thought that because he is from Yehuda, and maybe she is not from Yehuda, and therefore what? He cannot marry her. What does that mean? How does that reflect on Am Yisrael?
Isn't that with the no Slavchad that they had to marry within their own shape?
But that was only for that generation. Yeah, that was only for that generation. After they conquered the land, it was cancelled. Lack of אחדות, שבטיות. I'm from Yehuda, you are from Binyamin, we don't do that. By the way, who is the one, מי הוא זה ואיזהו, that שבט Yehuda and Binyamin basically blamed each other for the troubles he caused?
It's not Pilegesh Begiva? No.
מי הוא זה ואיזה הוא? מה? אבל לא מגילת אסתר, מי הוא זה?
אחשוורוש אומר,
מרדכי. מרדכי, אמרת מרדכי, תגיד בקול רם. מרדכי. על מרדכי כתוב איש יהודי היה בשושן הבירה ושמו מרדכי בן יאיר בן קיש איש ימיני. איש ימיני או איש יהודי? The Gemara in Megillah says, ראו מה עשה לי איש ימיני. Meaning, you can look at Mordechai as a troublemaker. Why didn't you what? Bow down to Haman וזהו, מספיק. And then שבט בנימין, then שבט יהודה said to שבט בנימין, אם שאול would kill Hagag, Haman will not be here. So everyone will blame each other. By the way, there is even something more ancient than that. In the Mechilta, when they studied the pasuk, שרי זבולון, שרי בנימין רגמתם, don't call it רגמתם, אלא אלה שירדו בים, which means we always think, since kindergarten, that who was the first one to jump into Yam Suf? נחשון בן עמינדב. I hate to burst your bubble, okay, and tell גננת רותי that she needs to learn the Mechilta, and the Mechilta says that there are other options, that דווקא שבט בנימין was the first one to go down to the Yam Suf. And when Shevet Yehuda saw that, they start stoning them. Say, no, we should go first. And then Shevet Zvulun and Naphtali, they also got into this milchama. Who is going to go first? So maybe it's not Nachshon. By the way, this is a very interesting thing. This is a Midrash Tanaim that was composed around the 2nd century. And there was a debate between the Tanaim. Should we try to go back to what we'll call Malchut Yehuda? Or we can have a king and leaders, someone who is not from Malchut Yehuda, especially after the destruction of the temple. You know, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was the head of the Sanhedrin, who was not from Shevet Yehuda, and we have a problem because of what? לא יסור שבט מיהודה ומחוקק מבין רגליו עד כי יבוא שילה ולא יקט עמים. All the מחוקקים should be from Shevet Yehuda, not from other shvatim. So, whatever, different shiur, not now. But going back to our issue, is that he says, I can't marry her, even if I want. If she is not from Shevet Yehuda, I cannot marry her. By the way, at the end of the day, she was not from any Shevet, right? She was from a different Shevet. So whatever it was, that's what Boaz said, which is very, very interesting. Now, also there is tension בכלל between Shevet Binyamin וכל השבטים האחרים because of פילגש בגבעה, which was, we need to learn it once, I think, and to try to understand how we compare it to Sdom and Amorah and all of that. Yes?
The interpretation that was, look at her. He had, what we said before was, he heard Naomi had come back. And he hadn't acted on it at all. And then he sees this Sanua girl in his field. He's thinking to himself, I think I made a mistake. She's a very lovely girl, not in a
romantic way, right?
I think I made a mistake. I should have been friends with him. It looks like Naomi's done quite a good job with her.
Okay, very good. It might be that Boaz has some quote-unquote regrets and says, whoa, rega, she's a wonderful person, right? I should have done more, might be. So then, ויען הנער הניצב על הקוצרים ויאמר. So one of the guys, the people who is in charge, says to Boaz, ויאמר, נערה מוביאה היא, השבה היא נעמי משדה מואב. How derogatory it can be. Nothing. Just a Moabite girl came with Naomi from the field of Moab. How can you be so cruel?
No problem. People do that all the time. No problem. Who is that?
ותאמר, על הקטנה ואספתי באומרים אחרי הקוצרים, ותבוא ותעמוד מאז הבוקר ועד עתה זה שבטה הבית מעט. But part of his problem, but he's saying something nice. He says what? She's not lazy, this girl. She is here from what? From the morning until now, and she didn't take breakfast, lunch, or dinner breaks. Okay, she's here. ויאמר בועז אל רות. Now take a look. הלא שמעת ביתי. He talks to her like Naomi. לכי ביתי. Right? He says to her, ביתי. Now, definitely, by saying BT, he is telling her, I can be like your father, but not father. I can be what? Someone who can protect you, can shield you, okay? אל תלכי ללכוד בשדה אחר, don't go any other fields, וגם לא תעבורי מזה, וכל תדבקי עם נערותיי. Stick here, stay in the field with my girls. עינייך בשדה אשר יקצורון והלכת אחריהן. Now take a look at this verse. I don't know if you ever thought about it, but if you did, כל הכבוד, if you didn't, now it's the time. הלא ציוויתי את הנערים לבלתי נוגעך. I commanded the guys, do not touch her, which means without that commandment, they would have. שמעתם את האלשך? You remember the אלשך? מפורש. טוב, צמית, הלכת לכנים ושתית מאשר יישבון הנערים. says לקח טוב, this is incredible. הלא ציוויתי את הנערים לבלתי נוגח, מצווים הם מהר סיני, שנאמר ואהבתם את הגר. Meaning, Boaz says to them, you forgot what the Torah says. ואהבתם את הגר. Meaning, Boaz, in a way, Ruth brought back what? Morality back to the Jewish people. Boaz saw Ruth, and he says, רגע, it says ואהבתם את הגר. You need to be extra sensitive to the ger. And what do? We abuse them, we rebuke them, we tell them to get out of there. What are we doing? We forgot what was the reason we got out from Mitzrayim. Ruth does not only do chesed, she in a way revives the memory of Exodus. And then she says, ותיפול על פניה ותשתחו ארצה ותאמר אליו, מדוע מצאתי חן בעיניך להכירני ואנוכי נוכריה? Like, why do you even pay attention to me? I'm a foreigner, I'm a stranger. Meaning, she does not even believe that what?
She's worthy.
That she's worthy of some kind of a recognition. ויען בועז ויאמר לה, הוא גד לי, I was told. כל אשר עשית את חמותך אחרי מות אישך, what you did with your mother-in-law after your husband died, ותעזבי אביך ואימך וארץ מולדתך, that sounds exactly like אברהם אבינו. לך לך מארצך, ממולדתך, מבית אביך, ותלכי אל עם אשר לא ידעת תמול שלשום. And he went to a what? A totally foreign, strange nation. So I cannot ignore it. Yes?
You're teaching us to look at the words there, the Hashan. So actually, English looks back to the word in Tamar.
Sure.
She says,
And Yosef and the brothers, and the Yaakov and Yosef and the brothers. הקרנה למי, הקרנה הכותונת בנך היא אם לא. תמר, הקרנה למי החותמת והפתילים האלה. Look, we spoke about it once. Many stories in Tanakh will borrow sentences or phrases or expressions in order for us to make the connection. I'll give you a teaser. Leil Shavuot, I think. Yes, I will talk about, I think, I'm still forming it in my mind, but about the way to compare Megillat Ruth to Megillat Esther. Not in my shiur, just between Mincha and Mariv. We have 20 minutes. Something like that. Sorry. So the idea is that we have those expressions, and it's come to tell you, go back to those stories. Okay. We need to finish, right? Because of the mincha and all of that. No. Okay, take a look at on page 5, Rashar Hirsch in the middle, where it says, like it's underlined. He says, page 5, mamash 2, 4, the fifth sentence after it says pasuk yudchet, כי גרים הייתם בארץ מצרים, מבשרכם חזיתם, לאיזו אכזריות תגיע האומה המתנכרת לזכויות האדם של הגר, היה זה אסונכם במצרים שהייתם גרים, ומכאן נבעה צרת העבדות והעינוי. Says you yourself experience through your own flesh and blood how ignoring the strangers and then ignoring them and when you don't think that they are equal to you just because they are strangers, then you start abusing them, and then they start losing their dignity and their tzelem elokim, and you can do whatever you want. Fast forward 20th century, same thing. One of the ideas of Nazism was what? Jews have no identity, no nationality, no nothing. They can go anywhere. And therefore, they are always zarin, they are always strangers. You can always build fear based on strangers. We always have this human nature fear that if someone is not like you are afraid of him, you have your preconceived ideas about him or her. So, I'm sorry we don't have all the time in the world, but I would say that Ruth brings back, in a way, the memories of Yetziat Mitzrayim, the reasons why we went out, and what do we need to learn from Yetziat Mitzrayim in order to implement it in Eretz Israel. We saw different commentaries on what was going on in Eretz Israel at that time, which was definitely not a good one, and she was the cause of change. She was the cause of change. And one more thing, and I'm concluding, Boaz also did something for the first time in Jewish history. He used the name of God in a mundane way, where it says, Yivarechecha Hashem. Vayomru HaKotzrim. No, he says Hashem.
Israel said it first.
No, he says Baruch Hashem.
Yeah.
He was the first one to say Baruch Hashem. Hashem imachem, vayomru lo Yivarechecha Hashem. He says Hashem imachem. He brought the name of Hashem into the field. Because they thought the field is the field. Yeah, we can hang out with the girls. But when we go to shul, says Boaz, lo. The idea of changes in the Israeli society at that time was something that we learned from Boaz and Ruth. That's for today.
Right up.